let's get started. I'm going to be showing you the basic functionalities between structures, loops, if statements, things like that. I have made two files. One is a Python file and one is an index file. I'm going to show you how to run these files. So if you know some JavaScript, you should know that to run this index.js file that I have here, I made a project called Python.js, and here is each file. So to run the index.js file, we can do node. We need to have node installed, and it will run it. There's nothing to run in this case, but if we say, for example, hello, that is what it will output. Now, to get started on the Python side, saying, okay, I know JavaScript, let's get started on the Python side, you're going to need to install Python by going to python.org and hitting the Downloads tab. If you're on a Mac like I am, you can hit this button and follow the launcher, but of course you can find other environments and do so as well. So it's really simple to install. Once you follow their instructions, you're going to have access to the Python 3 command on the terminal, like so. You can type Python 3 version, and it'll show you what you have. This Python 3 command also allows you to execute the file. So just like you would say node index.js, you can say Python 3 index.py. And I have this example already queued up. Okay, so now let's start comparing both languages in terms of syntax. Let's look at the JavaScript way of creating variables. So we know, let's see actually this section. We know that we can declare variables like so. If we're using ES6 syntax, we can say let or const, and the old way is to say var. And Python has a very, very similar way of doing it. Let me comment out things that we don't need at this moment. I mean, it's the same thing, except that you don't actually have to declare what, if it's going to be a variable you're going to update, or if it's going to be a constant. So that's, in terms of syntax, you can clearly start seeing that Python is cleaner and very similar so far. Okay, let's move on. So how do we do interpolated strings? In JavaScript, we have an example like this, where you can have the backticks, your string, and you can interpolate data like so. I really enjoy this syntax, and in Python you have something similar. Actually, you have a few ways of doing it, but here's one. This is print, is the equivalent of the console log. And this command, when you put an F in front of it, allows you to basically have the same kind of syntax to JavaScript, the string and the data interpolated within. Okay, so let's run. There it is. John, my name is John, I'm 20. I am not John and I am not 20. But that's the example. Okay, so let's move on to loops. In JS, we have an if statement like this and a for loop like this. So the control structure, I guess before we get to loops, would be, syntactically very simple, where you're evaluating a variable and based on that, outputting a result. So let's do one thing at a time. You can see the syntax difference being the indentation, where you don't need this end character basically, but it's very, very similar. We also have the colon there. you're going to have a very easy time transitioning languages if you're decent at JavaScript. I'm encouraging you to get into Python. It's really wonderful, and hopefully this video will get you a little bit inspired to do so. So now we're going to talk about loops. Look at this. Same concept of the indentation, the print statement we talked about before. We're saying for, and then the number, do the following, print this number. While in JS, we would say, declare I as 0. If I is less than 5, do the following, which is print that. Very, very similar. Okay, let's move on to functions. Here's an ES6 way of doing a function with the arrow syntax. Again, interpolating some data. We're going to call the greet function. It doesn't take any argument here, and it just outputs that string. And in Python, I guess we can just look quickly at the if statement here, the if-else. Similar. But here's the function. The indentation again, the colon. In this case, we're not interpolating strings, though we could, though, right? We learned that way of doing it. It's do something, whatever you want to do in that function. All right, let's look at arrays. Super simple. Defining arrays of numbers in JavaScript looks like this. Guess what it looks like in Python. So that's it.